okay, maybe there wasn't like there isn't like a tough, challenging dynamic, but there is learning that you learned from mom, who is the role model for self. We learn everything about how to talk to ourselves, see ourselves, treat ourselves by what we saw, heard, and felt, either how mom felt about herself or how she made you feel. That is the role of mom. She's our foundation, nurturance of ourself. Everything's self-related. So how many people may not have a mother wound, but when you look at how you relate to yourself, there's some dysfunction there.
That was Anat Peri, and this is episode 53. Welcome to the Brave Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Lynn, founder of Sistership Circle and author of Open Your Heart and The Art of Leading Circle. I'm the mother of 2 girls, an 8 on the Enneagram, aka the Challenger, happily married to my business partner, Brent, love connecting with nature, and have put in well over 10,000 hours circling with other women. On this podcast, we will explore how to embody the brave woman so that you can take action on your dreams and desires, unapologetically speak your truth, and live life on your own terms. Grab a seat and a cup of tea, and let's get started. I am so excited to have my bestie here, Anat Peri. Yay. I can't believe that we haven't done this before, but it's always divine timing. So yay, Anat. Thanks for coming on and jamming with me today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Good to see your face. Good just hang out with my bestie who doesn't live by me anymore.
I know. I left her. I left her for the jungle. We have so Anat and I have a history. We met back in 2004, December 2004. And Anat was the one who set me off on the personal development path. And so what's so cool about our journey is that it has always been about growth and support and accountability and being our best selves. And so we're close to 20 years of our friendship.
Oh my gosh.
And we met in New York. And then my favorite story is she's like, okay, I'm coming to California. I'm going to go to LA. And I'm like, why would you go to LA when you could come to San Diego? She's like, well, I know more people in LA. And I said, yeah, but I have a whole community here in San Diego. So finally she comes down. She's like, why didn't you tell me about this? I'm like, I was.
Yeah. So what's been beautiful is how, we've led each other. Like I introduced you to the world of self-development, I think just about 18 years ago. Yeah, I did the Landmark Forum in January, and then you started, I think, a month or 2 later. But then, you led me to my home in San Diego, my community in San Diego. And then you led me to the deeper healing work with Dr. Barry Green. So we just keep supporting each other in our growth.
Yeah. And you've been at some of my events, very pivotal moments of my career of stepping into leading big events. And then when Anat was transitioning, lived on my couch, and how long did we live with my parents together or staying there together?
10 years ago? That was, gosh, I think we only stayed there for like a week or 2, or like a week. And then we were dog sitting for, what's her name? Jody for like a week. Then we went to Maui and stayed with my brother for like a week, or I think I stayed longer for like 2 weeks. And then I came back and you're like, oh, there's a room available at the Passion Mansion. And I went and stayed there for like 6 weeks or something, right? And then we both ended up hearing from different people
That's
that
right.
2 rooms were available in the Bouncing Buddha House. Here's the funny thing, guys. If you're not from San Diego, there's this weird thing that was happening. I don't know if they still do this, but people in Encinitas like to name their homes. So, yeah, there was 2 rooms became available at the Bouncing Buddha House. We both hear about it the same day from 2 different people. I tell Tanya, I think I found a home. Tanya's like, I'm going to look at a home. Where are you going? Bouncing Buddha House. Where are you going? Bouncing Buddha House. Wait a minute. Are we after the same room? And they're like, no, there's 2 rooms. And there we were in January, moving in together to the same house.
Yep. And then when you came and crashed on our couch for like a month, was Callie a
That's when
baby?
that's when I started my business. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like 6 months in and I was committed to, going from being nomadic to getting my own place, which meant I needed to make more money. So I allowed myself to just couch surf and dog sit and all the things while I was working my way up to, averaging 10,000 a month. So yeah, I was on your couch for about, I think like 6 weeks or a month, maybe. And it was in March. So Callie was a year.
A
She was a
year
year
old.
old. Yeah. And you're like, okay, listen, do you help us out? I'm like, I got you. I'll help cook. I'll help do some cleaning,
Hmm.
hang out with the baby. Yeah. Crazy. She
Oh,
was only a year old. How old is she
uh-huh.
now? She's about to turn.
Turning 8, March
Oh my
11th.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh.
It's a trip. It's a
It
trip.
is.
I know. Just when you go on these lifelong journeys, they say friends come into your life for a season, reason, or a lifetime. You're a lifetime.
Oh, I'm a lifetimer for sure.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, and yeah, we're just always there for each other. I just got married about 7 months ago, almost to the day. Yeah, 7, 8 months ago. And it was so special for me that you and Brent made the trek all the way to Crete, Greece from Costa Rica,
Wouldn't miss it.
without the girls. Yeah, yeah, it was just so special for me. What a fun time.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It was our little honeymoon as well, being by ourselves for a full week. Oh, and the
Yeah.
food of Greece. Oh my God.
I'm
Eating our
going
way
back.
through.
I'm
Yeah.
going back in May, leading my intimacy women's retreat with Bren.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, so that's really the theme for you and I is intimacy and vulnerability and our personal journeys of learning how to essentially open our hearts with people, with our men, and I think that is such a important thing for women to learn is how to open themselves. And I just love for you to share a little bit about your journey into vulnerability and intimacy and what that's kind of
Mm,
looked like for you.
yeah. So something that wasn't modeled to me for sure. I definitely learned more to please and appease and do the right thing and say the right thing. So there was a huge disconnect from my voice and from my full expression. And meeting you, like to me, you've always embodied that. So you've always been a role model for me in just speaking my truth and showing up fully as myself. Um, but, even into like 12, 13 years into my self development journey and even my work as a coach, it was still something that was edgy for me. I'd say I'm really fully stepping into it this year and started stepping into it about, gosh, what's it been? 3 years ago when I turned 40. When I met my husband 5.5 years ago, he's also someone that naturally, like, you know him. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. He shows up fully himself, tells it like it is, and yeah, it. I'd say to this day has always been my biggest edge is feeling safe enough to fully express myself. And I remember him saying to me the first like 2 years, he would always say like, just be yourself, be vulnerable, just be yourself, be vulnerable. And I'd hear it, and he was so patient and loving with me in times where he could tell that I wasn't fully showing up. And part of it was like I heard the words and I got the safe space and the loving permission, and I still had no idea what it translated to, like what it actually looked like and felt like to show up that way. So it was like a discover for me of like, okay, I hear you, be vulnerable. And can someone model that for me?
Yeah.
And even though I had other people like yourself modeling it, it was just a journey of getting there where I felt so safe within myself, so accepting of myself. And something happens when you turn 40. You stop giving a shit. Or you start realizing like, it's really up to you. And I turned 40 and I remember being like, hey, where am I dissatisfied in my life? What am I not happy with in my relationship? And holy shit, if I don't speak up for myself about this, if I don't say anything, then I'm keeping myself in a box. And I was someone that it was hard for me to rock, like I didn't want to rock the boat ever in my life. Like I always ran from feeling like I could disappoint someone or getting them angry. And this was all stuff that, in my household growing up, mom and dad, very self-expressed. And in like a, sometimes I wouldn't say chaotic way, but definitely, could express their anger, and we either copy, rebel, or survive. And for me it was a way to survive the intensity of that, which didn't feel safe to me in my body, was to become a people pleaser, to please and appease and try and get everyone to come back to like harmony, the merging of and it's also because I was an empath. I felt everyone's feelings so deeply, and I didn't know yet how to hold that much sensation and feelings and energy in my body.
Do you want an awesome community of women around you, supporting your dreams, cheering you on, and having meaningful conversations? How would that feel to be surrounded by like-minded spiritual women who want to make a difference in the world just like you? What are you waiting for? Sister, sometimes you have to take things into your own hands and make it happen. If you are that type of woman, then becoming a women's circle leader is for you. It's one of the most fulfilling things you can do right now. I'm hosting a one-day virtual training to help women like you rise into your leadership and step into leading women's circles as a way of creating the community of your dreams. This is an interactive and experiential event with 5 parts. First, you'll learn the 9 pillars of the How to Lead Circle blueprint, a step-by-step process to start your first circle and consistently run monthly circles. Next, you're gonna sit in a breakout circle so you can experience how we do circle at Sistership Circle. You'll make new sister connections as you share with potent question prompts and get vulnerable together. Then you're gonna discover your divine feminine leadership archetype and how to cultivate your superpowers so you lead from your unique strengths. Next, you'll learn exactly how to start your first circle in less than 90 days. And finally, you'll know how to overcome any challenges that arise, and specifically the top 4 fears that come up for every circle leader, so you feel empowered to take inspired imperfect action. So if you're ready to create a transformational women's circle that develops real, meaningful sisterhood, and get the tips, tools, and techniques to create a circle that's safe, sacred, and sold out, then join us for this experiential and embodied event. Go ahead and click the link to grab your ticket today.
So I ran from it. So then here I was in a relationship for 2 years where I didn't even want to rock the boat. And there were things that I wanted to see change. There's things that I wanted him to change. And he's an Aries, and, you know, my husband, you can't tell him what to do. And so I needed to learn that shift from wanting someone to change by telling them what to do, which was what was modeled to me, because my mom was very, very controlling, very, you know, she'll just tell you, you know, be forceful with you. And so, like, to me, that was what was modeled, is control others, is just tell them what you want them to change and do, which did not work with my hubby. To learning to really share how it makes me feel, to opening up and being willing to be raw, be vulnerable, show all my emotions around something, and not necessarily expect someone else to change it, but really stand in, like, this is just where I'm at and what I feel, and I get to have this experience. I get to have these feelings.
Yeah.
And as I started to, he started to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's it, right? Like, when we step into that, it's like we're constantly pointing the finger of you need to change, and then something shifts within us, and then boom, they show up differently as a reflection of our
I wondered why he didn't change all those years, because, well, he also, I treated him like he was, you know, the best thing since sliced bread. Right? So he just thought he was doing everything right. And then hearing and feeling more of my needs, which he craved for. He knew there was more. That's why he would say, just be yourself, be vulnerable, like, tell me more. And it was so edgy for me too. But when I finally did, to be met by someone that's like, oh, let me take that in. And it ruffled his feathers, that's for sure. But he started to make change when I was willing to stand up for myself.
Yeah, there's this distinction too I want to make, because you are naturally outgoing, social. You create a lot of friendships, like, it comes really easy and natural to you. And yet there's this distinction around intimacy and vulnerability, right? Where we can, even if we're social, or we seem to have all these friends, right? And people might have a perception of that, and yet we're not actually truly being vulnerable. Or there's a piece, like you're saying, around the people pleasing, where we're showing up perhaps with a lot of friends to either cover something, or, like, there's that people pleasing thing. So I'm curious, like, how this has even impacted your friendships, because I really hear how this was something specific around your partner and being with a man, but also in friendship for you.
I'd say it definitely more showed up with the opposite sex, with men. With my girlfriends, if I've let you in, like, I'm an open book. Did you ever feel like I wasn't vulnerable and open with you? No. So it was like, it was definitely something, again, probably related to my relationship with my dad growing up, where he was always working and didn't really take time to connect with me. And, as you and I have both learned from our trainings, the role that a dad plays in their child's life is that they are the role model for everything that's not the self, for the world, for others, for relationship, for vulnerability. And so, not having time with my dad, I formed these beliefs of I'm invisible to others, I don't matter. Men will always choose something else over me. Love's not always there for you. And my way of surviving that, uh, my coping strategy was when dad was around, what can I do to experience that love from him? What can I do? How can I help him? Um, how can I be around him? So it formed this pattern that showed up in every romantic relationship that I
Yeah.
had. But with women, it's not that I never had that. I did, until I met my best friend Samantha, who you've met, when I was 16 years old. Until I took myself out of my school environment and studied abroad, and
Mm,
suddenly was surrounded by a bunch of people that did not know anything about me. And one of the women, Samantha, in my program, was she was the popular girl. She was the cool girl, she was the pretty one, all that. And she and I hit it off at orientation in 2 seconds. We were like best of friends. And the level of transformation that experience and relationship gave me really changed how I showed up in friendships, because she saw me and she loved me for who I was when I didn't even love myself. And it gave me a sense of confidence in sisterhood that I didn't have prior to that. And I came and I got to reinvent myself, therefore. I got to play being someone other than who I was before. And I came back to my senior year in high school. So that was junior year. I came back my senior year and I became friends with girls that I'd gone to school with since fifth grade, because I made that much of a shift. And suddenly I was willing to like show up and be myself. And so I think for me, it's not that I never had uh, that experience with women before, um, but that relationship, that experience, totally shifted and transformed my ability to show up as myself in friendships. Yeah.
I love that story. I don't think I ever knew that. So I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And just the power of someone loving you unconditionally is so healing and transformative, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I didn't know you prior to that. So
Right.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I want to just
Yeah.
comment that I can experience like with dad. It's like my dad worked, but he coached my games, and he created family time a lot, like weekends, vacations, sports. Yet there's these little moments where if I wasn't performing, if I wasn't uh,
Mm.
at peak performance, I didn't feel seen. And so that, like, be strong, be tough, be like a boy, essentially. Um, and that was really my path into vulnerability. And I would say doing the work with Barry, like, really opened that up in a bigger way for me. Because I didn't feel, for me, I did not feel like I was fully accepted for all parts of myself. Only the strong Tanya, who
Mm.
was the peak performer. Yeah, so I can relate with that. Less people pleasing, more performing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, and so then there's mom.
Mm-hmm.
controlling. So we have
Mm-hmm.
dad, and this is so much of the work that you and I both do is looking at mother and father wound
Mm-hmm.
and how having that disconnect with dad then impacted relationship with men and how you've been healing that. And then what would you say has been the healing around the mother wound for you?
Hmm. It's interesting that you call it a mother wound because I actually prefer to call it a mother learning and a father learning
Mm,
because w- when we label it as a wound, we're looking for something that was that was painful, and not that there weren't, but um, a lot of times it's not so obvious. And then you have, and it's talked a lot in, social media. Everyone's like mother wound, father wound. And imagine having a great relationship with your mom. And you hear that on social media, and you automatically think like, oh, I don't have a mother wound.
yeah, that was me. Yeah.
And so yeah, and so for people to get that, okay, maybe there wasn't like a tough, challenging dynamic, but there is learning that you learned from mom, who is the role model for self. We learn everything about how to talk to ourselves, see ourselves, treat ourselves by what we saw, heard, and felt, either how mom felt about herself or how she made you feel. That is the role of mom. She's our foundation, nurturance of ourself. Everything's self-related. So
Mm,
how many people may not have a mother wound, but when you look at how you relate to yourself, um, there's some dysfunction there.
yeah. I love that reframe.
Hmm.
I have to take that. Yeah. Because that's
Yeah.
kind of like in the world of divine feminine circle, like definite. And I mean, Bethany Webster is the one who really came out with mother wounds. So, yeah, I tend to use that languaging, but I really appreciate the reframe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Yeah. 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 And that a lot of times we think that um, it's related, how do I want to say this? I'll back up and say differently. In the hundreds of clients that I've worked with, I see the accuracy in what we've been taught, mom models and dad models. And I
yeah.
don't see that a lot in the industry, as to what we think the mother wound, father wound is, and the role that each play. So it's a powerful distinction and way to look at it. So that being said, what did my mom model to me, that's affected my relationship with myself? I'd say something that and it also impacted my vulnerability,
Yeah.
is I saw my mom is very hard on herself, very judgmental of herself, and
Mm,
also very judgmental of others. And um, her way of compensating from it is like trying to be perfect, like being really rigid. And if she puts herself into something, she's going to perform and commit and all that. My way of dealing with that was more to hide and feel small, to run away from it. So to shrink myself and to not even try.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I am just coming out of that fully. I've been inching towards that in the past 7 years since I started my business, right? First, it was in showing up on video with my clients and feeling like I could be seen with them and accepted by them, to then doing in-person retreats, same thing. And now I'm like comfortable with both. And then 4 years ago, it was when I started doing podcast interviews. I used to literally shake, like tremor, while on calls. And
What?
now it's like,
You?
and now I'm so comfortable with it. And my most recent edge is allowing myself to be seen, um, by the world. Like,
Yeah.
I just, committed to, I just rebranded. I put myself all over my website. I wrote all the copy on the website. So it's like my voice, my face. And now I just started putting out reels on social media. So it's just, this has been my edge. And I still hear, my mother there, like, do people like me? How do I look? Well, do they accept me? Am I saying the right thing? Yeah. And so learning to love myself in that way, because my mother struggles with that, with loving herself and seeing herself fully. Yeah. So remembering it's not who I am, it's what I learned. It's not my energy, it's hers. And it's taken time to shed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm thinking about, I think maybe we were at the Bouncing Buddha house and you had done ceremony. And what came through was, I am a medicine woman. You remember that?
Mm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you had written that down and you were reading this to
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like, even you drew the card, like the medicine woman, and how that was like continuing to reveal itself. And then when you started doing the retreats and like stepping into these hot seats and like it just coming through you, and like you really started to channel and step into this medicine woman power. And that's really when your business began to take off, right? Is when you fully embodied that and that path. So I just love for you to share a little bit about that journey of stepping into your business, stepping into success, and stepping into medicine woman.
Yeah. Well, I'd say, from my teenage years, my friends always came to me for advice, for my wisdom. I mean, God knows what I said to them. Now I probably wouldn't, but whatever it was ahead of what they could give themselves. And it gave them that sense of peace. So I always enjoyed that. And I remember, a part of me wanting to major in psychology, and then a part of me saying, I don't want 8 years of schooling. And so going the route of finance and business instead, and, divinely, synchronistically, perfectly, I was led to anyway in through the world of self-development in the experiential way, which is so much more me than like the traditional schooling. So that was 18 years ago, right? At 25 years old. And I fell in love with it from the get-go. Like I fell in love with seeing people transform. And so I knew even then that I wanted to do that. And I spent the next 8 years along, I think, with you, being in different leadership roles, learning from different mentors, getting to practice coaching. But what I wasn't getting was my own embodiment.
Yeah.
And so when 10 and a half years ago, left New York City and came to LA and then San Diego, I was, I had no self-love. I had $2,000 to my name, $40,000 in debt, no car, no job, no home, no plan. And I always say, one friend in San Diego, Tanya. And, but I knew, my heart knew that I was ready to, ready to follow my heart. And the one thing that I knew at that time was like San Diego, which I fell in love with when I was 21.
Yeah.
So even though I'd done mindset work, a lot of self-development work, I was missing the body. I was missing the embodiment of it. And, spent the next 2 years while we were living in the Bouncing Buddha house, thank God through you again, doing the the body mind connection work, actually getting the inner child reparenting and healing. And so all that time I wanted to coach, but I'm a woman of integrity, and I'm someone that if I'm going to bring something, if I believe in something, I share it with the world, right? I'm a connector in that way too.
Yeah.
Same thing. I had to really believe in something before I was going to coach people around it yet. And so it took me 10 years before I was ready to step into starting my own business. And when I did, um, I wasn't comfortable. I mean, it was before what Instagram is today. We're talking almost 8 years ago. I wasn't comfortable with social media. I wasn't comfortable with marketing. I was comfortable with talking to people. I was a people person. And so meeting the right business coaches who said, just, figure out who you want to serve and go talk to people. When you find your first person, start creating your program.
So what I'm really hearing in you stepping into Medicine Woman and the embodiment of that is that you really discovered what your medicine was and leading from that and bringing your medicine to the people that you serve. And that you were able to start with that by first getting clear, like, yeah, I'm a connector, and that's how I'm going to market.
Yeah. And I think you hit on something important, and that is embodiment. If that's what people are paying attention to the most is, are you walking your talk? Do I feel that she is just, because you could be good at marketing and good at sales and all this stuff, but especially when it comes to this type of healing work, we're looking to feel it from you, to see that like you are embodying that. And obviously I've continued to grow and embody more and more in the past 8 years. But where I was at then, I knew that I felt confident enough that I was coming from a integrous place, from a place where I knew that I am practicing what I preach, and that I can now just go and share this with other people in whatever way is organic for me. And for me, organic was just sticking to what I was comfortable with, what lit me up. And I think that's the message for people, for coaches as well, is like follow whatever lights you up around it, and then let the other pieces come as you meet those edges. Like right now, I'm exploring doing reels on Instagram, which a year ago you couldn't get me to do, and even 2 months ago I was still uncomfortable with it, and I just needed to find my journey towards it. So yeah, so that was my journey. My journey to Medicine Woman was really tapping into what came naturally for me, and knowing that like I had a deep desire to support those that were called to me. So there's a lot of surrender around it too. Like I'm not here to serve everyone. And I really felt this co-creation with the divine, with the universe of, bring me those that need my medicine, whoever is drawn to me, and just allowing it to flow. So really focusing my energy on it being open and accepting of what is, instead of manipulative or forceful or salesy, which, or desperate. I mean, come on, I slept on your couch for like 2 months. Yeah. Was there some desperation in the background there? There was. Was there like fear of not having the money that I needed at times? Yes. And that's exactly where I would go and do my work. I needed to clear that energy and embody the medicine woman instead, and let go of that fear and trust. And that trust worked. By the end I went from making, I think, 3,000-4,000 a month average, to having 10, 20, $30,000 months. Because anytime these things came up for me, I delved in and did my work. I cleared it so that I'm coming from an open place.
Yes. Yeah. We're you and I we're lifelong growing, constantly doing the work. And that's what's so beautiful about our friendship too, is that we do that together. I just want to kind of wrap this up with your journey of self-love and letting go of the people pleaser and stepping into your power as your authentic self, and then stepping into marriage, and then that same journey as well, that same theme with your business of staying true to you and that authentic, integrous place. And that's the work, that's the embodiment. And so I just want to really celebrate you and all that you are and all that you're creating.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's end with our final question around, what does it mean to be a brave woman?
Couple things come to mind. One is when you're on the high, when things are great, to stay humble, grateful, and generous. And when things feel dark and in the dumps and challenging, to remember that this too shall pass, that this is happening for you, that there's an expansive opportunity, and to be grateful for it as well, and to ask for support.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being a brave woman. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today.
Riding the waves.
Riding the waves. You just listened to this show. I'd love for you to leave the Brave Woman podcast an honest review. Reviews help podcasts like this one grow, making it more possible for me to devote my time, energy, and money to its production. If you take a screenshot of your review and email it to support@sistershipcircle.com, we'll send you one of our archetype activations as a thank you gift. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Up next, how do we become more present, vital, and walk the path of love in a culture of busyness, exhaustion, and fear? Find out in the next episode of the Brave Woman podcast.